This is Bishop Noel Jones, and for this week I'm going to talk just for a few minutes each day, the same time, and maybe twice a day with the same encouragement. And we're going to talk about faith in the face of a pandemic. That's faith in the face of a pandemic. I think it's important to begin to ask, why are we here? Because in many instances, people are accusing, and they're accusing each other of having not handled this thing properly. And I am very sure that if China didn't handle it properly, that we had the opportunity to handle it properly. But there is something about being wealthy and something about being a great nation in the eyes of men instead of the eyes of God that causes people sometimes to feel as if they will not be affected by what the average person is affected by. There's a tendency for us to be arrogant and cocky and feel as if we can get by something that other people go through. When I look in the Bible, even when Paul talks to Christians, he says, whatever happens within the parameters of the church is such that is common to man. In other words, all of us that live on this little planet suffer the very same things. The difference is how the children of God look at what they are going through. It is critical to understand this because the arrogance that we may have in our social environment should not seep over into the church. Now, I have to admit that the church is a microcosm of whatever the society is, but the church is a place of redemption, and the power of God resides in the church, and the church should have great influence in the things that happen in a social environment. Again, I'm talking about theocracy that should rule democracy. But when the church is not a voice and the church does not declare the attitude that we should have towards all people, but we have a distinct disposition towards certain people who are elitists, and then we totally ignore people who are less than we are, and that seeps over into everything we do and the way we think. James makes it clear that we should not be a respecter of persons, but we have been respecter of persons within the nation, within our community, within our churches. Let me put it the other way. Within our streets and neighborhoods, within our cities and states, within our country, and within the world. We have an elitist attitude, so we just thought that whatever the world is suffering with would not come to us. It doesn't matter how China handled it. The real deal is how we handle it and how our leaders handled what we are going through. And our leaders should have been influenced in many ways by the theocratic people in the church. Because, as I say, theocracy must have dominion over democracy. But when the church believes and the church operates in a manner that suggests that we are subordinate to what government decides to do, and we have to take sides with government instead of taking sides with God, then we feed into this arrogant disposition that we don't have to deal with what the rest of the world deals with. And then we as church people, we somehow believe that we can simply just go to God at any time. And this has been one of our errors. And that is that faith does not move God out of his will. And faith does not fix what we have done through making decisions that bring certain consequence. You see, we want to put faith in to move God, to remove consequences of the decisions we make when we have free will. If we have free will and we can pray God into moving the consequences of our free will, then we don't have free will. Anytime we make choices, we have to suffer from the decisions that we make. And we have to understand that if God intervenes in any decision we make, and he does not allow the consequences of the decision we make, and if he intervenes in a free will environment, then we don't have free will. You can't have it both ways. So, because we didn't make the right decisions, I'm not thinking about the other country. I'm thinking about this country that we are a part of, that we Christians should be praying for our government and our leadership. We should be influencing them instead of getting into bed with whatever they feel like doing, because we are caught up in the money issue and we fail to understand that lives are more important than money. So consequently, our arrogance in the deceitfulness of riches have caused us to feel like this is going away and we don't need to really operate on it, because it only is going to trouble the less important. And now this is where we are. We're in a serious place where those of us who know how to call on the name of the Lord must get back into the things that are important and stand for the things that are important, and not allow ourselves to feel as if we are so important and so above everybody that what touches other people won't touch us. Here's what the Lord says: none of these diseases will come upon you if you follow my principles. You can expect that the children of God, you can expect us to be swept into the attitude of the world and not have to deal with what the world deals with. We should be the voice that say, do something about this. We should be the voice that hollered aloud and spared not. We should be the voice that does not go along with everything, because now we're in a situation where we have to suffer because we did not voice the things of God. Now, how do I end this with some sort of hope? I'm telling you now that our faith has to lie, not in our riches, not in what we think we are and who we think we are, but now we have to put our faith in the light of this pandemic back on God. We have to lift our faith from the people we think are important and powerful and put our faith back on God in this pandemic. I will see you tomorrow.